The fight that changed the landscape of the heavyweight division is back. I'm Teekosey, and this is with just 15 defeats. Hi guys, Teekosey here for another round of With Just 15 Defeats. In today's show, we're going to be discussing the rematch, the big heavyweight rematch of the fight that changed the landscape, the entire landscape of the heavyweight division. Yep, that's right, I'm talking about Tyson Fury defending his World Heavyweight Championship against former long-time champion Wladimir Klitschko. So before we get into the main body of the show, just want to say thanks for joining me on this new show. Hope you enjoy it. If you enjoy the content, give us a big thumbs up. If you've got any questions, if you don't agree with anything, if you want to share your prediction, just leave us a comment. Just leave us a comment below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible to keep the debate going. Also, we're going to have a poll that will pop up in the top right hand corner on the icon. We just want to click on that. Just be a brief question. Who do you think's going to win in the rematch? Really interested to see what everyone thinks out there. So the rematch, as I said, the first fight completely changed the landscape of the division. It completely changed it. For years and years and years, we had Wladimir Klitschko defending his title against a variety of people. I think that he defended it against a fair few decent guys, really. And some of those guys are still top contenders now. So it proves that he was a credible fighter, a credible world champion. He held so many belts for so long, since some of those defeats that he had a lot earlier in his career, and the way he rebuilt himself and became such a dominant champion where people weren't even getting close. They weren't even getting close to defeating him. That's how much of a champion he became, and really, we really need to accept that he is one of the greats. I think in time he may well be forgotten, and I think the universally accepted legends of the division will remain, and Klitschko will be kind of forgotten, and maybe it's because of those knockout defeats that he earned, that he had in his earlier days, or the fact that he wasn't in really exciting fights, and partly that was because there weren't exciting opponents cropping up. So not much he could have done, I don't think, and I don't agree with the opinion that he ducked opponents, because realistically, in terms of people that he could have fought in the last 6 or 7 years, there's very few. I think, like off the top of my head, with Valiev, and you had a very old Holyfield. There's a couple more. I can't quite grasp them this second, but there wasn't that many, and I think he's done. Obviously, he had his brother as well at the time, who did fight a couple of decent guys as well, and took them away from Wladimir. And had he been on his own, he may have fought some of those guys as well. And so his record may be he may have been slightly better than it is in terms of opponents. But hey ho, that's where we are. So let's just talk about the first fight, Tyson Fury versus Wladimir Klitschko. Now, when I first started the channel, I did a full breakdown of this fight. A full breakdown of this fight is my very first video, so it was a little bit raw, But to be honest, I listened to it the other day, and I still agreed with all the points that I put out there, and it's a full in-depth assessment of the first fight, going round by round. So if you want to go back and find that, it is on the channel. You can check that out. But I'm just gonna talk a few points about the first fight and how I saw it as a bit of a recap. Now, I actually, in terms of scoring that fight, I'm actually going to shock a few people here, because I actually scored that fight 4 rounds to 1. That's right, 4 rounds to 1. Not this and that. I think there was so many rounds in that fight which were nondescript, that weren't worthy of going either way. And it's funny, when I was re-listening to the video that I produced for the breakdown, I kind of discussed this in quite great depth. And actually, on one of the broadcasts of the fight, Kellerman actually discussed this himself. He quoted someone else, I can't remember who it was, might have been Manuel Stewart, that when scoring a fight, if someone's landing a single shot more, is that enough to give someone a round? So just say there was only 3 notable punches in a fight. One guy lands 2, one guy lands 1. Is that a single punch sufficient enough to edge him in the entire round? And I don't agree with that. So that's how I kind of I differentiate from a lot of other people who would score the full rounds, and they would give guys an edge. And it's like when I watch a lot of matches, and some matches are so incredibly close. I mean, it's not that it's close in the fact that they both had 6 rounds apiece. It's that each round is incredibly tough. So to give someone the edge in every single, so you could have a match where someone literally threw 1 extra punch in all 12 rounds. Do you give them 12 rounds so they win 12 rounds to 0? I don't like that when it happens. So in this case, that's how I decided to score this match. And I'm just going to go through a few comments that I made originally on the first matchup. Now, originally, Wladimir Klitschko was pressing the action in the fight, but he had no intent. So he was pressing Fury, but he had no intent. And we know, having seen the fight, that Wladimir Klitschko really did not throw significant punches and was a very, very disappointing opponent. But he was moving forward, and for some reason, he wasn't throwing punches. So he had no intent, despite the fact that he was kind of moving forward. He was pressing in the direction of the fight. Okay, Tyson Fury was doing a lot of showboating. He was doing a lot of showboating throughout the fight, right? Tyson Fury was also throwing a lot of punches, but he wasn't actually landing, so his accuracy was quite poor. And the other thing, this is one of the important aspects. Now, throughout the fight, there was a lot of holding. There was a lot of holding and hugging, and we get to see this as fans of heavyweight division quite a lot of holding and hugging. But what is different is that in pretty much every single fight that Wladimir Klitschko's had in the last 10 years that have gone more than a couple of rounds, we've had to put up with the Wladimir Klitschko spoiling tactics, the holding, the pulling, the resting, the leaning, the pulling down, all these kind of tactics that he utilises to wear down his opponent. We didn't see this in this matchup. We did not see this at all. And I think it's for two reasons. Two reasons why we didn't see it. Tyson Fury was the bigger man. Tyson Fury was the bigger man. And I think in almost every single fight that Klitschko's had in these championship defending fights, he wasn't fighting someone that was bigger than him. Or if he did, it was very, very occasional. So he was fighting smaller guys and he was able to utilize these spoiling tactics. So I think that's one thing to think about, is that he wasn't able to do it. The second thing, and the second reason why he wasn't able to utilize these tactics, is that every time there was hugging and holding, the referee broke the fight up. This is a very important factor of this fight, and I think it could be an important factor of the next fight. Now we see a lot of fights where there's incredible amount of holding and getting close, and then sometimes they don't allow it at all. One of the Hatton fights where he fought Pacquiao or Mayweather, it might have been a Mayweather fight, the referee did not allow any infighting, any close work, and it worked against Hatton, and Hatton was sparked out, right? And this was kind of a similar situation where the referee allowed very few moments of being in close. So Klitschko wasn't allowed to wear down Tyson. And that is, I think this is one of the most important factors of the matchup. Okay, another issue of the matchup was the body language of the two guys. Now, Tyson Fury, he was buzzing. He was so excited to be there. He was jovial. He was jumping about, smiling on his face. He was being cheeky. He was being arrogant. He had that super confidence. He was jumping around. Whereas Wladimir Klitschko was super serious. And he was worried. I think he was definitely worried. And I think within a round, I think he kind of realised, shit, this might not be going my way. And for some reason, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it this time. And if you look at him between rounds, there's a serious look on his face. And that's such a difference of body language between these two fighters. Next point I've got from the fight is that Fury could have stopped Klitschko in the 9th round. He had a good punch, a good set of action, but as we know about Tyson Fury, no killer instinct. Like other guys that we know in heavyweight division, they really have that killer instinct. They'll go in for the kill with real accurate, heavy-handed punches. Tyson Fury doesn't really have that. He doesn't really have that killer instinct, and that's why he doesn't have highlight reel knockouts and doesn't really have a fantastic knockout ratio. So that is something that we need to consider. Another thing to consider, right, of this matchup is the fact that Tyson Fury had a points deduction and still won on a decision in away territory. So when you're thinking about what an achievement this was, he got a points deduction and still won away from home with judges that you would have thought would not be favourable to him. And I remember thinking at the time, I said this in my video in the breakdown, that when I was watching it live, despite what I was seeing, you kind of still think that you've got to really beat the champion to take the belt. That's a bit of a cliche. And the reason why I felt that way was because the rounds were so close. As I've said, I gave 4 clear rounds to Fury, 1 clear round to Klitschko. And then the 7 rounds that remained, were neutral rounds. And also the fact that he lost that point really kind of detracts that even further. So when we went into that final round, I was kind of thinking, crikey, this might be really, really close, because those neutral rounds where I was thinking nothing's really happening. There are probably judges that would have given that to Klitschko. They're out there. So it really is a serious achievement. Really a serious achievement. Tyson Fury, he's gone on and he won the title. It's a phenomenal achievement. He's upset the apple cart, and we've kind of moved into a new era in heavyweight boxing. And since I've been kind of covering it on this channel, we've seen things happening. And obviously we've got the whole Anthony Joshua. We've got the fact that Browne picked up a belt and then was stripped of it. We've got drug situations of these top competitors like Browne, Povetkin, Ortiz has had these tests. We've got Erkan Tepa, and we've got Tony Thompson. I don't know, it's a bit old, but anyway. So the landscape is changing, and obviously we've got Wilder that's continued to kind of steadily kind of progress. We were very excited for the Povetkin fight that didn't go through, and I think that would have established him possibly as the number one, because despite the fact that Tyson Fury has beaten a legend effectively, I feel that in the greater scheme of things, he doesn't get the respect that he deserves. And it's partly because of some of the things he says, the way he behaves. We had the situation in Britain where they have this thing called the BBC Sports Personality of the Year, and it's kind of voted by the public on who. It isn't really about the personality. Usually it's about an achievement in sport, and they get awarded this trophy as kind of almost like the best achieving sportsman of that year. So some top people have won it in all different sports over the years. Some terrible people have won it in the past. So it doesn't really mean anything. But in terms of sport and achievement, Tyson Fury was head and shoulders above anyone on that list. I can't even think who won it now. But he should have won it by a landslide. He didn't. They brought him up on stage to discuss it, to kind of discuss his achievements. But all they really wanted to basically get out of him was kind of an apology of some of the things he said. And yeah, realistically, I've said it over the years, said it time and time again, he should have just kind of apologised straight away, regardless of what he feels, because it has really hurt his reputation. But anyway, that's by the by. So we're moving into kind of like the matchup, the rematch. So the main thing that I kind of take from everything I've kind of heard, kind of this was discussed in the head-to-head. If you haven't watched this, it's worth watching. Boxnation produced one of these head-to-heads. We see it all the time now. Klitschko Fury, sat amongst the table, and it was actually quite interesting the way that they were talking to each other. I think Tyson Fury was playing mind games, where he was really saying, I don't really care. If I lose, I lose. I'm still going to get paid. I've been the world champion. I've beat a legend. I don't care. I could probably still get big fights and big paydays down the line. It doesn't matter if I win or lose the belt. The belt's been in the cupboard since I won it. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. But the thing that I took from the whole of that show was that Tyson Fury was basically saying to Wladimir, what's going to change? What's going to be the difference next time? And all he said was, he kept on repeating, I'm going to let my hands go. I'm going to let my hands go. Now, that's all well and good saying that you're going to let your hands go, but are you? And the reason is why. And Tyson Fury kept saying that, and he didn't really have a reason, and he kept on saying things like, he kind of like, or implying that he decided to lose, or that's kind of like the way that Tyson was deciphering what Wladimir was saying. And I don't quite know why he didn't let his hands go in the first matchup, but he didn't. And a lot of Tyson fans will say, he was unable. He was unable to let his hands go because of the movement, the unpredictability of Tyson. And I have to agree. And one thing I'm going to talk about now is that Wladimir Klitschko had a fight. The last fight he had before Tyson Fury was a defense against Jennings, right? He won that fight, okay? He won that fight, but it wasn't all his own way. Now, Jennings, he isn't the best fighter in the world. I think he's reasonable. And I actually think that he'll give anyone a good run for their money. He'll give anyone a good run for his money. So any of these other guys, Joshua and Parker and Wilder, that want a real competitive, real 100% competitive, Jennings would be a fantastic choice, despite the fact that he's lost 2 massive fights in a row, right? But the thing that I took from the Jennings Klitschko fight above anything in that fight was, if you watch that, Jennings kind of one of those guys is kind of, there's a lot of fidgety movements, and he's kind of coming in and out, and he's kind of moving a lot. Now, when he was moving, Klitschko's not throwing. And I know people can say that's the same. Everyone is the same. When your opponent's moving, it's difficult to throw punches. But with Klitschko, when the opponent is moving, he has to really wait until the opponent stops, reset himself, and then start throwing shots. So when Jennings was kind of moving, there was no offense. There was no offense from Klitschko at all. And we saw this repeated in the Tyson Fury fight, because Tyson was constantly moving. Klitschko wasn't throwing, and that really is the story of the fight. Klitschko was unable to unload because Fury was moving. He was unpredictable. It was a very, very difficult situation. Now, that I think is going to be the story of the rematch as well. If Tyson Fury decides to continue his movement, continue his unpredictable nature, Klitschko just isn't going to be able to land enough punches, right? So, one of the things I was thinking about was Wladimir Klitschko. Does he retire if he loses again? And I think the honest truth is probably yes. If he loses, he retires. If he wins, there's one of 2 options. He's either going to retire having got his titles back, or he's going to have one last fight. And that one last fight is going to be against Anthony Joshua. 100%. I don't think there's any other fight out there that anyone really wants to see. And I think if he was able to beat Fury and then able to beat Anthony Joshua, then he get that legendary status kind of comes back into his park. The first Tyson Fury fight was a blip. So I think after this fight, Wladimir Klitschko 80% retires. 80% retires, unless we see an Anthony Joshua fight. And I wouldn't mind seeing the Anthony Joshua fight. I wouldn't mind seeing the Anthony Joshua fight even if Fury wins it again. But I think if Klitschko loses, we won't see that. And next aspect, the next aspect here in this whole rematch situation is that it's in the UK. It's in the UK. So how is that going to affect the fight? Now, Wladimir Klitschko has fought abroad, but not very often. Not very often. So you think Klitschko, he's fought 68 times professionally, right? 68 times professionally, and I think in some of the middle years, he did fight a few times in America. I think he fought once or twice in the UK. I think he's fought a few other places, but generally, in his championship years, it's been in his adopted home of Germany. Okay, so it's in I mean, Klitschko, he kind of has an interesting background when we discuss where he's actually from. But now I think he spends a lot of his time in America, right? But he fights predominantly in Germany. Now, last year, I think he fought in America. I think the Jennings fight was in America. And as we said, it wasn't an easy fight for him. But I think that was probably more to do with Jennings being a difficult, savvy opponent than the actual location. We saw Klitschko fight somewhere else in Europe a couple of years ago. Just quickly look. Russia. So he fought Povetkin in Russia just a couple of years ago and completely trounced Povetkin comprehensively. And there was another one recently, Tony Thompson in Switzerland, right, where he knocked him out. So it's not. I actually don't think that it's going to be an issue. I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. Obviously, there's going to be more Tyson Fury fans, but I don't think it's going to get to Klitschko at all. Like, come on, this guy's got 68 professional fights, been defending titles for a decade. He's been on massive stages, fought around the world. He has that confidence, but as I've said, the most important factor of this fight is how Wladimir Klitschko deals with the movement of Tyson Fury. Can he deal with that movement? And I would suggest that he is unable to deal with that movement. So if that is the key aspect of that fight, Tyson Fury's movement, we now have to consider Tyson Fury. What is he going to be like in the fight? Now, in the weigh-in, we saw him. He was saying he was overweight and all that sort of thing. Obviously, it is, to a certain extent, it is unprofessional when these guys put on so much weight in between fights. It can be really, really difficult, particularly at heavyweight, because some people will have the mindset that I don't really need to come down to a specific weight, so it doesn't really matter. Those extra pounds aren't really a concern. And we've seen a number of fighters in heavyweight division, they carry quite a lot of extra timber that they really shouldn't be doing. And I'm always of the opinion that people that carry that, it's not that they're lazy, but it's not good. They have a kind of lack of commitment to really training to get their body in the optimal condition. But with Tyson Fury, the number one factor in Tyson Fury's weight is that if you think about his weight through the years, it's been up and down. Some of those fights he's been really quite heavy and quite high 200s, very high 200s, right? But when it came to the biggest fight of his career, what did he weigh? He weighed 240 something pounds, and yeah, looking at his body for that fight, it wasn't a fantastic physique, but he was 100% in shape. He was in the shape of his life, and he was ready to rock and roll and ready to get on that stage and put in the performance of his career. And I have the feeling that unless there's anything that major that kind of upsets the preparations, we're going to see Tyson Fury in phenomenal shape again. We're going to see him in phenomenal shape. We're going to see him as lean as we can see, but we're not going to see him ripped. We're going to see him in shape, and that's enough. That's enough. As long as he's able to have the movement and the unpredictability, we know he's got skills. And I've been an advocate of Tyson Fury's skills throughout the years. I remember for years and years and years there were pundits and bloggers and whatever, podcasters throughout the years that would just diss Tyson Fury's skills. Said he had no skills, that he was a joke. And I really didn't like it, because I actually thought that Tyson Fury, yeah, he's not got the slickest of skills. He's not a Lomachenko or a Floyd Mayweather or any of these guys. But he has reasonable skills, and his range of skills are incredibly wide. And that's what differentiates him from a lot of guys in the division who are one-dimensional. They're plodders, they're punchers, they're punch bags, whatever. Tyson Fury has a really wide range of skills, and we're going to see a fight, and I don't think it's going to be any more exciting than the first one. I don't think it's going to be any more exciting, and I think that's part of the reason why in the UK this is being screened on Boxnation, which sucks all the time. But anyway, so that's, well, my prediction, it goes to full 12. I think in my one of my previous videos about this fight, I kind of suggested that someone might get a knockout, but the more I've thought about it, the more I think about how the fight's going to go, I think it's going to be a full 12 rounds. I don't think Klitschko is going to be able to land enough. I don't think he's going to be able to. I think the referee's a very influential person in this fight. If we get a similar ref to the first fight, who doesn't allow the holding and hugging and the pulling and the tugging and all that stuff, it's going to go Tyson Fury's way. He's going to win on points. He's going to remain the world champion. And we move forward to see what happens in the future. And as I've said, Wladimir Klitschko loses, retirement. He wins, possible retirement, possible Anthony Joshua. Tyson Fury wins. I think everyone is going to start getting excited about Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. I can't see Deontay Wilder fighting Povetkin. I think that ship has sailed. Povetkin, whatever happens with him, he's going to have to start rebuilding his career and make his way back up to that division, or the top of the division. And I think Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, that is a fight that everyone can get excited about. I'm not going to talk about that now, but we can talk about that at a later date. So anyway, that's what I think about this fight, this huge rematch. I hope everyone's kind of getting excited about it, despite the fact that it might be a bit of a bore fest, because it is so important to the heavyweight division. So leave your comments below, get involved in the poll, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if this is the first time you've come to my channel. Thanks for watching. I've been Teekosey, and this is With Just 15 Defeats.